last 2 pages. The Rebbe starts off a while ago, about a page and a half ago, and he says that the phenomenon of the koiches interrelating, like seichel b'mislabish in koyach hatnua, it takes place only when the koiches are in kelim. When the koiches are on their own, there is no such interaction.
No interaction between them.
Between them. When they're in kelim, then there is slapshut, like the seichel is slabish in keach hatnua, because the seichel is once guides it hatnua to produce a tziyur, which is conceptualizing the seichel. So therefore, this interaction is first comes into being when the koiches are in the cave. Now this is step one. And the koiches actually, like I said, unite with the kelim. They're mislavish. They use in the kelim. And the reason for that is because the koiches, when they come in the kelim, they're misgalim. They reveal themselves. Koiches misgalim by kelim. This is another aspect of this whole discussion. And I want to start presenting this with a mashal. It's an exact mashal to the Ayin. Like we say, a person has a home, and the phenomenon of a home, or the phenomenon of a home, of a dira, is not merely, as we say all the time, not merely accommodating certain functional needs of a person. The minute the person is at home, he is in full expression of his personality and of his feelings and of his intellect, everything. Everything comes forth in this home. And we can have even a sense of this on the lower level. We speak about a table. We have talked many times that the table has profound significance in the human being. Just like a dira, like a home, a table also establishes a certain set place and establishes a certain, what's called mokim kovua. What kovua means? That he is bikviyus there. He is not just fly. If a person stands, he is nowhere. He's got his seichel admitted, but he's not in a place. When he sits down by a table, he's in a place. And the minute it's on the table, the whole person surfaces. His seichel begins to act, to function, and the midas, everything. Her personality starts coming out. Because this is a suitable, this is what's called a keli, and you say keli, suitable to his personality. Like we're saying, the goof ha'odom is a goof, is a keli, suited to the personality of the nefesh, tzuras ha-nefesh. And this is why, as soon as the nefesh comes into the goof, it's in full begenius, full revelation. All its koiches revealed there. This union of the gilui of the koiches that come as a result of the keli that are provided for them. And as we said in our moshel, that the human personality comes into, reveals itself in its fullest and richest form in a human environment, at home or at a table and things like that. This will still be discussed, but just since we mentioned it, we should have to focus in what is it? What is it that a home elicits the gilui of the person's personality? A table elicits the gilui. And the explanation of this is that the nefesh ha'odom, like we said many times, when Hashem created Odom Rishon, the creation of Odom was not that there will be some kind of a model, of a specimen. Creation of Odom is to be begilui, is to affect the world. This is where he finds his fullest accomplishment, a compliment. In other words, okay, mark these words. Everything in the world, everything that exists is created by Hashem. We understand that. This phenomenon that is created by Hashem is not an unrelated aspect. In other words, you have a human being, and historically he was created by Hashem. That's not the way it is. But the fact that he is created by Hashem is part and parcel of what a human being is. Thus, this union that he was created by Hashem, and Hashem's in creating the human being, there was a definition of what this creation is about. Therefore, this creature, when it is created, is about what it was created for. This is its personality. This is its reality. Because
I'm not getting this. The created man bears the purpose for which he was created.
Right.
You might have thought that he as opposed to he's just the product of his environment, say. Or
No, as opposed to, he is an entity unto himself. But then he can also decide to accomplish something. Like you said, perhaps as a result of his environment. In other words, these are two separate things. He's an entity unto himself because he was created. Okay, let's take something simpler. A table. A table is a structure. In our world, a table is a structure. But we understood in all of these discussions that a table is not a structure. A table represents a human spirit and human intellect. That is the reality of the table. After it was fully built, what is it? It is what it was imbued into it. What spirit was put into it. In other words, the human spirit, the fact that it's a human creation, is absolutely part and parcel of the reality of the table. Even though it was put into a keli and made of wood and bolts. This is the pshat, that the minute that the koyach, hanefesh, has a keli, it comes to full revelation. The minute the human being has a place in the world, he comes to full revelation. It's not two separate things. You follow what I'm saying? You get the point? Comes to full revelation. Because this actually defines who he is. It complements, this is the fulfillment of his being. I'm jumping the gun a little bit for the reason that I always want that we should have a sense what we are talking about. Then we relate to a different thing, and we have a different feel for what we're learning. Even though we do have to understand each statement and its own merits as a logical statement, but nevertheless it behooves us to have a sense what this is about. In other words, when the Rebbe says that the koiches are behisgalus, they misgalim in the kelim. They misgalim in the kelim because the kelim are suited for these koiches. And because they misgalim in the kelim, this is why they actually affect the kelim. All this is intellectually logical. But we're putting this in perspective and saying, what's going on? What is this Iskalos about? What is this effect about? That's on a broader scale. I just wanted that we should have a sense of the background of all this. Okay, finished.
How about Paltiel?
Yes, sir.
I want to go back to the beginning. I can't rewind the tape here today. But you said over these 2 pages there's a theme. And the first part of the theme you said was, I don't remember your exact words, but if I vaguely, something like, until the koiches come into kelim, they don't interact with the...
with each other.
With each other. Each other here means the koyach and the aver, basically, right?
No, the koyach and the koyach.
We're talking here about, not, we're talking about like seichel in tenua.
Right.
So
that's
what we're saying is, before what's the keli? So the koyach is now koyach ha-seichel. The keli for it is koyach ha-tenuah.
The keli is the aver.
Okay, that's what I thought it was saying.
Right.
What does it mean to say that before the koyach comes into the keli, there's no interaction? Why would you think that there is an interaction at that point?
I don't know. It's not a question of paradox. The Rebbe explains that the keiches interact with one another, and as we explained, but this interaction is a real interaction in the sense that seichel explains itself to the koyach ha-tenuah.
Right. But this doesn't happen, you're saying, until they come into keli. Okay, what does that mean? I don't get it.
It means that while the koyches are in the nefesh, they don't interact. Each stands on its own.
Because there are koyches before there's anything going on with the goof at all.
Right.
And over there they don't interact.
That's correct.
That was the first thing that's in the theme. And the second thing is, now that you've described it at length, can you, I don't know if I captured it in clear
Second thing,
form.
I explained what is so special about the Yevorim that elicit the gili of the koyches and provide for the interaction.
Because they're so perfectly suited. They're made that way.
Right. I went a step further and pointed out, so what if they're suited? Who needs an aver? I'm satisfied with myself.
But you're saying that without the aver, it's like the person without the home.
Others.
The whole purpose of the koyches is to be his galus, not to be hidden someplace.
Right. Purpose of the koyches should be misgaled because the purpose of the nefesh is to affect the world.
Right. But when you explain it this way, we had a question a while back, maybe a week ago, that isn't it sort of a step down for the koyches to come into a vorim? They have to restrict themselves, they have to fit into it. This really explains why it's not a step down at all.
It's not a step down in essence, but it's a step down in terms of the quality of the koyach, of the level of the koyach. Okay, this will leave off for the time being. You have to understand. I said I'm preempting because I want that we should have a sense of the meaning of the significance of this what we learn. Even though properly the learning is, as we said many times, each statement has to be learned on its own merits. And then, okay. So we are now on the bottom of page Vav. Okay, the third paragraph on this page. Velechen, and thus, for this very reason, namely, for the reason that the kelim, the Eivorim are proper kelim for the koyches, and therefore the koyches are misgali in the Eivorim. Therefore, lefi oy von choymer hoivorim, ken hu is galus ha-koyches. The galus ha-koyches in the Eivorim is in proximity to the type of the choymer of the Eiver. In other words, even though the Eiver and the Koyach are two separate entities, the Eiver is a Gashmi and the Koyach is a Ruchi. The koyach comes from the nefesh, and the Eiver comes from the world. Yet, the koyach is mislabish in the Eiver, and thus the hisgalus ha-koyachis in the Eivorim is not that the koyach is misgala according to its velechen, according to its quality. It's misgala only to the extent that this Eiver is able to accept it. And that the Eiver is coarser, so the koyach will be coarser. And the Eiver is more refined, so the koyach will come out and also in a more refined manner. Because the koyach is misgala due to the acceptance of the Eiver. Not the koyach is misgala on its own. It's misgala because it found a home. And the home has to be suited to the visitor. Therefore, the isgalus of the koyach is lefi eifun choymer hoyevorim, is according to the manner of the choymer hoyom. The choymer means the material, the actual flesh of the Eiver. As for example, this is not just an example, a peripheral example. This is one place where this inyan, this very reality is very obvious. That in the manner of, according to the way of the choymer hamoichin, of the very makeup of the moichin. Choymer means material of the moichin. Who is galus oirasech. This is how the oirasech will be galus. All right. I have to take you into these words and again point out his galus oir hasech, the light of sech. Let's translate this on a different level. If you hit your hand on the table and it hurts, somebody who is muscular and very strong, the pain will be not so severe, no acute. As a matter of fact, if you hit your hand on a muscular part, it's not even going to hurt you. If you hit your hand against a bone, against a more sensitive part, it'll really hurt. But this is a different phenomenon. This is a different phenomenon. This is where the interaction between the hand and the table is an actual forced interaction. It's not oil. Oil means light. Light is an intangible thing. Light we know only if you're sensitive to it. Just like in sight and hearing. Hearing, there's a sound that actually hits your ear. Touch, something you feel touching in your hand. But sight, for example, sight is totally unobtrusively, totally without effect, without force. It's automatic, perfectly smooth and perfectly automatic. Because inside you're relating to oil. I want to, I'm going a little too far, but I'd like you to understand. Whatever strikes us. When the world was first created, it says, it was dark. And then, and God said, let it be oil. Why did God have to say, let it be oil? Create the sun, and it'll be oil. Right? Oil is a derivative of the sun as the world sees it. But the project says no. Oil is a distinct creation. Because prior to that statement, oil, the world was exclusively known through touch, tangible. That's why it was dark. In dark, all there is that which we can feel. There wasn't that phenomenon of oil. What is the phenomenon of oil? The phenomenon of oil is, I know of this not because of its effect, not because of its reaction, how it affects me, but because it's really there. It's a reality. It's a godly reality. Like, for example, in our nefesh, emunah. Emunah is oil hanefesh. There's nothing forcing emunah upon us. There's no rationale for it. There's no logical force behind it. This is who we are. This is how we see the world. Reality. Seichel, and we're repeating this all the time, Seichel is also oir. The real meaning of Seichel is oir hanefesh, oir ha-seichel. Not the irrefutable proof. The oil ha-seichel. This is what Chochmah. I can say all the time, Chochmah and Bina, this is seichel. Bina is phenomenal, but Bina draws from Chochmah. If you have Bina without Chochmah, you don't have seichel. Like I always explain, that scientific logic is not seichel at all. It goes into the category of instinct, because one thing causes the other, causes the other to the other. There's no nefesh, there's no neshama to it. So oil, in order to appreciate oil, you have to be very, very sensitive. Just like physical light. There is only one Eiver, but yes, that's sensitive to physical light, and that's the eye. The eye is extremely sensitive. It's translucent completely. You can't touch your eye. The eye is very sensitive. And the eye is sensitive to light. Even though we have physical light, but on the physical and relative to the physical world, this is light. Now the Rebbe says that this, I'm reading in the rest one. According to the manner of the chomer hamechin, of the material of the moichin, who his galus oir hasechel. This is the extent, the manner that the hasechel will be, the oir hasechel will be his galus. Now, the force of seichel, the logical force, this is not contingent on refinement of the moyach. But it's galus oir haseichel, to sense the oir, sense and refine the fine element, the truth of that about it. That is, yes, that is dependent on the chomer hamoyach, how refined the chomer hamoyach is.
Rabbi, what you said before, you said that not the logical power, capabilities. I didn't quite. What do you mean by that? Of the seichel.
Well, I always give it a very simple example. 1 and 1 is
2.
Okay. Is it 2 or 2 ones?
It's 2.
How is it 2?
Because it is.
No. It is because it is. Logically, it is 2 ones. You can only prove. In other words, if you depend on proof, you can only prove that there are 2 ones. You can prove that there is 2. 2 is a seichel. 2 is a seichel. The proof that we can give for 2 1-on-1 is not seichel, is on a physical level. 2 ones. How do you prove that 1-on-1 is 2? You count them over, 1 and 2. So you're counting individual ones, 1 and 1. So effectively, when you say 1 and 1 is 2 ones, but you're simply saying 1 and 1 is 1 and 1.
Don't get anywhere that way.
There's no seichel. Seichel is oira seichel. We have 2 people constitute a testimony, power of testimony, witnesses. 2 people, 3 people constitute a mezuman. 5 people are doing familiar this. 5 people went to a Kiddush HaChedesh and needed 5 people. 10 people constitute a minyan. And then there's 100, and there's 1,000. Then we have, when you see a large number of people, you have to make a bracha. That is a different quality than 100 ones. What you're witnessing when you have 10 people is a phenomenon, 10 individual people, with each one having his own seichel and his own nature, his own attitude, are here united together into one unit. That reveals a super reality. You understand? That's a seichel, and that's an oyer. The Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, it brings down from the Maggid, I think, that if a malach would find himself in the presence of 10 Yidden, he would burn up. Because of the great godly power that's present here. I don't know, I'm not sensitive to that, maybe you are, but that's the truth.
Rabbi Paltiel?
Sure.
So, just to go to the language. When we have the term Oyer HaSeichel, is that they're really not two separate things. Oyer HaSeichel is Seichel, is the real Seichel.
That's correct.
So it's like a lichtig Seichel.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes.
So when you say like one and one is two, and you're saying seichel, logic is that's different than or seichel, yeah?
Right. If you were just the dry logic, the dry logic means like you're proving it. 1 and 1 is 2 because you counted at 1 and 2. So this is not seichel. That's not the concept. That's not what we're about.
Okay, fine. So or haseichel is what recognizes these otherworldly or beyond worldly.
That's right.
Concepts.
The significance, a nefesh element. Okay, there's much to speak about, but it's not sufficient. Okay, so let's continue. So we're saying that the gilui of Ayin HaSeichel is dependent on what type of chomer hamoyach there is. Sheim, where if mezeg hamoyach yovish v'cham b'yoser, if the mezeg hamoyach, the constitution of the moyach, yovesh is dry, v'cham and hot and very hot, very warm. Lo yiyeh mezeg haseichel toiv. Then the constitution of the seichel will not be good. It will be very dry. It will lack oil. It will lack life to it. V'imum mezeg kar v'lach. And if the moyach is in a constitution in a mix of karvelach, cold and soft and moist, b'yoser, extremely so, gam ken lo tov. That too will not be good. Since we made comment about Yovish v'cham, we might as well make a comment about Karvalach. If it's Karvalach b'yoser, you see, in Oyer HaSeichel is an interesting phenomenon. On the one hand, it's oil, it's light. On the other hand, it's a light that also has specificity. Normally, like light, you would say, doesn't matter what its design is. If it's a focused light, it's a big light, small light. Light is light. Oyer HaSeichel is actually making a very specific statement. If it is Yovesh and Cham, then the specificity of the seichel is, this is like, let's say, the Germanic logic, thinking, the very dry thinking. If it is, on the other hand, kar v'lach b'yoser, very, very fluid, then the seichel does not come to a conclusion, does not make a statement. Could be like this, could be like this, could be like that. Doesn't have a sense of some kind of a strong point. How about the mezeg memutza, in a mix of memutza and a middle of the way, ben kar v'lach v'cham v'yovish, something between kar v'lach and yacham v'yovish. In other words, it has an element of both. Not extreme to either one. L'fiyoifun toiv hamezek b'mei hagashmi. According to the quality of the mezek in the b'mei hagashmi, in the physical brain, kach yiyeh hashroas and haseichel b'mezek toiv. In proximity to that, in the similar manner, hashroas and haseichel, the housing and the imbuing and revealing of the oil haseichel will also be b'mezek toiv. Will be in a proper measure, proper balance. It will be a mezek toiv, a well balanced seichel. What's a well balanced seichel? A well balanced seichel is that yes, you have insights, and you have depth, and a certain sensitivity. At the same time, there is a concrete knowledge.
You commented when you commented on Karbalak you seem to be commenting only on its fluidity, it's very fluid, like lach, and you explained what it, and when it's very rigid, but you didn't comment what's it,
because heat
causes
and dryness go together.
This idea you said is about being a dry thought, or like the thought is like a wet thought or a wet seichel. I mean, we're talking. These are physical qualities in the brain. These are spiritual qualities. Like,
you're not saying a wet seichel. You're saying a wet brain. And the oil haseichel that this brain will be sensitive to will have a certain softness to it.
So we're actually talking here about the physical qualities of somebody's brain.
We're talking about the physical quality of somebody's brain, and we are saying that the oil haseichel is misgale in the brain because it's in the brain. Since it's misgale in the brain because it's in the brain, therefore it will be misgale in accordance with the quality, with the mezek of the mix of the brain.
but dryness and moisture, aren't these terms that we give it because to us it seems like it has this quality? What does it mean, like a thought is moist? Like, I think doesn't like the Alter Rebbe say
so we didn't say moist thought. We're talking about moist brain, and the thought, the seichel, reveals itself. A moist is clearly, it's clearly more sensitive, and therefore you'll be more sensitive to your Haseichel. Again, don't take this carver of Yobish. Take this with a little bit moisture.
We say like a dry thought, though. I mean, I know we're not saying physically dry. That's a ridiculous thing to say. But what in common does? What do these things have in common? Dry v'yavish brain. And what makes a thought dry v'yavish? So we can compare them and say that this is more a cham v'yavish mind leads to cham v'yavish thoughts. What similarity is there? What do you mean is like a thought? Not in Gashmis, of course. You say like Germanic thinking.
One second. Yeshua. What's the difference between one and one being two ones or being two?
One has the element of R. One shows that there's a person.
Don't give me back my words. What is the difference?
One and one just shows how many individual objects you have there.
Right.
Two shows you that.
Okay, don't rush to answer. Think it over. You owe me the answer. You owe me the answer. Don't rush. Okay? But I just want to tell you, two is an elusive concept. It's not that easy to understand it, to relate to it. Two once, no problem. The whole world became smart because they knew how to figure out two once. They're geniuses. But they don't know anything about the truth of Seichel.
I understand what you're saying about I mean, to some extent, what you're saying about Cham v'Yavish, but when you say somebody is too, on the flip side, the other extreme, like, what would be an example of somebody's, like, thought process where it would be the Vach? Like, what would be?
I told you. I just said.
I mean, that
you
that
can't
sense.
come to a conclusion.
They're just totally aloof.
Can't come to a conclusion. You put an item in water. Does it stay in the place where you put it?
No. So it's non-concrete, basically.
Yeah.
Non-committal.
When you said overly sensitive, so to speak, to error, like, why is that?
He sees in the oil all kinds of versatility, all kinds of possibilities.
Okay. Sees the unlimited.
Okay. Let's not again. Let's not dry it up, okay? So kach yiye hashroas oira seichel b'mazik teiv. So hashroas.
Rabbi Paltiel.
One second. Hashra means bestowing, because the seichel comes from the nefesh. The nefesh is in a different world, a different refinement. It's ruchnius mamash, it's godly. And when this nefesh comes oira seichel. This oira seichel, you have to be very sensitive to sense it. And that depends on how the message of the brain, how refined the brain is, to what extent he senses it. And if it's a good mezek in the moyach, the oira seichel will also come by mezek toiv. Yes, Baruch, your turn.
So this is all pretty astonishing. Your brain is your brain. What can you do about your brain? That's what it is.
Give it some water.
You can't heat it up if it's cool, and you can't cool it down if it's hot.
Well, let me tell you, we're only beginning over here. I just said, let's not dry it up. But I want to tell you, even as you can develop a muscle in your hand, you can develop a more sensitive brain.
And we're not just saying a more sensitive process of thinking, blah, blah, blah. We're saying, no, the actual chaymer hamaya.
That's right. The seichel, you will be more sensitive to a different seichel. I worked in a company. They were it was called in the smarte business, producing garments from certain materials, and they used, in some cases, very fine materials, like silk and rayon, and a very fine rayon, and so on. And they had, I watched this happen, and they introduced a new member of their family into the company. It was a privately owned company, and before this member can begin to actually participate in decision making in the company, he has to get a feel what this company is about. And one of the things that he has to sense is the difference between one material and the other. And the differences are not that easily discerned. So I remember these young people going around holding material in their hand all the time. Constantly feeling it, getting the sense of it. All right. Okay, let's just get into the end of the sentence. Okay, kach hi ashora ashroas oil asechel b'mezik tape. So the ashroas and asechel, the bestowing ashroa. I can't think of the word ashroa. Resting of the asechel b'mezik toiv in a proper mix. Im behaskola be'oimek. Whether it is in haskola be'oimek in depth, oy beroichav, or in expansion, in width, in inclusivity, oy behaskolas dachois v'tzachois, or in haskolas very fine and very pure haskolas. And such other distinction, these differences in haskalas. And that is due to the fact that this seichel is shoyre, dwells in the brain, and that the way the brain accepts the seichel, this is how the seichel is going to surface, to reveal itself. And just as I mentioned now, with this feeling of the material and all kinds of different experiences, like you can develop a muscle, the same is true. The more a person is exposed to a finer thought, his brain is also, this is part of the exercise of the brain. It gets refined. And thus he is able to sense finer thought on a higher level. Yes, Boris, you want to say something? I thought somebody was saying something. All right, this is it for this evening. Okay. So we are very refined now, right? Very wet and very dry. What's the story with Myra? I didn't know Myra. What?
yeah,